look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it. In hindsight.
What if success isn't the only story worth telling? What if struggle, failure, and uncertainty are just as important to hear? Today's guest, Evan Poling, is an entrepreneur, veteran, and founder of BizRetire.com, where he's working to reinvent an industry that hasn't changed in centuries. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Lee. Great to be on. I'm doing well. Like we were talking a little bit pre-show there. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. It's really hot here, and we've actually been getting some rain. So anytime rain hits the desert floor, you're excited.
Had about a couple of days of reprieve in the 80s, and then it just skyrocketed back up to the 100s. So we're dealing through this heat, in the wintertime. Hey, how is it cold in the desert in the wintertime? Is it cold in Phoenix?
It can be, yeah. Depends on what your degree of cold is, but you can get in the 50s, 40s. Sometimes you can get freezing, sometimes, but not too often.
I mentioned that you were a veteran. I just recall being in the military. So I was in the Army, and we went to Fort Irwin, NTC, for training. And it's in the desert, in the middle of the desert. The thing I hated was when I had guard duty, because if you don't have guard duty, you can just curl up in your sleeping bag and it's done, right? But I had guard duty like right before we were to get up in the morning. And I just remember how cold it was, in the desert.
Oh, yeah.
And I sit there and I look at the horizon and I'm just waiting on the sun to come up. But the problem with that is, once the sun comes up, then it gets super hot, right? So the desert is a wicked place.
It is. And then when the sun comes up, that means you got to get to work. And sometimes it kind of
that's the other part.
Peace and solace to yourself,
Yeah. So Evan, you lived a life of exploration, from martial arts, business ownership, serving in the military. Looking back, what inner drive has connected all of those experiences for you?
Wow, that's a deep question. As you were saying that, I was trying to think, like, why am I like that? And I don't know. Maybe it's a curiosity of the world or of myself. As a child, I was learning different things. I was very good in school, but not very social, not very athletic. And so, how do I become more social? I would never do a podcast like this. I never thought I would do a podcast like this. Meeting a random stranger, talking about things. This is not really young Evan. And then, doing things like martial arts I was not physical at all. And so, I think it was just this idea that I was raised with, that I could accomplish everything, which is a double-edged sword. And one of the recent breakthroughs I've had in my life is, my generation, they make fun of the millennials for you get the first place trophies or the participation trophies and everyone's a winner type mentality, which is true. That's kind of it can really be detrimental to a lot of people. But I was always told, like, hey, you're the cream of the crop, you're the best, you're gonna do great things. And so that helped me to believe that and to strive for those greater things. But on the other edge of the sword is when I wasn't performing at perfection or my peak, there's almost a paralysis or a kind of just this feeling of defeat that defined my personhood, right? And so every time I would fail, I just felt like the worst person, especially trying to live up to this mantra that other people decided was the mantra of my life. And so, the introduction there, and it comes off my profile, because I think a lot of times we do celebrate all these big wins, but we're not really celebrating the people who lose a lot and then eventually turn those into wins. And what is the journey to get to that success? And so, I'm excited to dive in with you today.
Yeah. You made me think about when I was younger. I think I was social. I don't know what, you look back, like I'm in my 50s. So I look back and I try to, you get all these fancy words and you go to these sociology, psychology classes throughout your life. And you try to look back, or I try to look back, being I am hosting Hindsight, the podcast. and figure out what was I, back then. I was super shy. I still say that, but I think that's a simple answer. I think I was more afraid to fail in
Mm,
contrast to kind of your upbringing. So I was decent in sports, right? But I never played organized sports. Like we would play sports in the neighborhood, and our neighborhood team was always really good because I could play the game. But I was scared to practice and get something wrong in practice. And the coach, to me, it was yell at me. I wasn't thinking to get me better. You know what I mean?
right.
So I think about that, and it really took until I went into the military before I was able to really release myself from that bondage, I guess, of just being afraid to make a mistake because they put you out there. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
make mistakes in the military. They're gonna put you out there and they're gonna correct you. So just being able to own it, just understanding you can't get everything right. You're gonna make mistakes. They're not actually mistakes, they're learning opportunities, all of the little mindset shifts that the military does.
Right.
So yeah, I have a totally different experience, but I think we're kind of here in the same space now. So different roads, and here we are intersecting in
Yeah.
that space.
100%.
But with that, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah,
all paths can converge to one medium outcome, right? And so that's the
yeah,
beauty of life. There's just so much
yeah.
variety and beauty behind it.
Right. So Biz Retire is your latest venture,
Yep.
and you said it's like building Netflix in a blockbuster industry. Take us through. First of all, did you say that? And then what sparked that vision?
Yeah. So there's a little bit to unpack here. So, when I look at
Okay.
Blockbuster, and, I don't want to get sued for shade. I know they're doing some innovative things now, I guess, but, it was a local, you go in, you get your VHS, you get charged for the rewind fees. It was very, very manual. And now we have Netflix where we have all
Right.
these entertainment on demand. The business selling industry is very similar. And so BizRetire, I've been working on it for a couple years as a bootstrap founder, and there's been a lot of failure as I've tried to figure out even trying to figure out what the company is. And
Mhm.
so I knew there was a problem. There was a point in time when my wife was having some issues at work, and through those struggles at work, I was like, man, let's just buy you a business. Like, you really care about what you're doing. You're really good at it. People would pay a premium to have you do it. So let's just buy a business. At the time, I'd been watching a lot of content. There's this thing going around on the internet talking about how you can buy a business with no money down, seller financing, where the seller essentially, finances the business to you and you make payments to the seller like it's the bank, like the mortgage company. And so I'm like, okay, this is kind of a cool concept. And lo and behold, I meet a business broker, it's like a real estate agent for businesses. And by the time, we had sent our interest, we had got back some information, we had asked some questions and got answers to those questions. We were like 4 to 6 weeks down the timeline. And I'm thinking like, we're ready to kind of buy this business. We're really kind of serious about this. Let's do this thing. Why is it taking so long? And so then I started really unpacking like, what is the industry? What's going on with it? How do we like what kind of problems is it? Why do business brokers exist? What are other ways to sell the business? Like, how do other businesses monetize the sale of a business? Is that what's really the best interest for the owner? Is that what's really best interest for the business buyers, the searchers, the seekers? How is it? How do we incorporate advisors into this and help increase the value of those businesses? And so there really was kind of this big math equation. I'm trying to figure out where all the variables went into it. And so, yeah, it's been kind of a long journey. And like I said, BizRetire has kind of morphed over the last couple of years. It's not the same business that it was 2 years ago, or even maybe 8 months ago. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the high arching overview of what I've been up to.
Oh, okay. Hey, so you alluded to it But you've been pretty open about facing more obstacles than wins so far.
Yeah.
What's been the hardest part about the first year in business from your perspective?
The thing about business, people go into business thinking like I have a good idea. And we've all done it. Hey, I've got a great business idea, guys. Everyone has to sign a non-disclosure agreement because I don't want someone to steal my idea, my $1 million idea, or whatever it is. We've all kind of had that. I've had that. But what I've learned is that there's a difference between having an idea and executing on an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of times we have ideas that are good in our head, but we haven't really tested it against industry. And so some of the best business owners are business owners who have actually created an idea, kind of fleshed it out, and then went to their target customer and asked them, are you interested in if I were to do this? And to gauge interest first before they even start the business. And, if I was a smarter guy, rewinding the script a little bit, I would have went back and asked everyone like, hey, what is it that you really want? What is valuable to you?
Hmm.
And sometimes those people won't know, because if you're creating something new, then they can't envision that new thing happening. But
Mm-hmm.
it was figuring out what to do and how to do it, because quite frankly, I've never ran a business before. I went to college. I've saw my dad start up businesses and fail. But like, so what? Until you really do it, you don't really realize how hard it is, and how, quite
Yeah.
frankly, how stupid I am. Like, it's not about being stupid. It's inexperienced, right?
Yeah.
So
You don't know what you don't know.
right.
And one thing, I've done a few businesses, not anything like this. Did a photography business back in the day, and it was fine, but scaling it right when you, because I don't want to go out and take photos. I think one day I had to do a photo shoot for a wedding by myself, and that was I was like, this is it, I'm done. Like, it is too much work. And I had a business partner in mind. I was like, how do we scale this? How do we bring photographers in, get that cut, right? Then you start seeing Thumbtack and, all these other places, I'm sorry, that kind of leaned into that. So I just left it alone. I'm too old and it's just too much work. So I definitely understand that. But you just don't know what you don't know. And for
Right.
me, my perspective on business, I was good at taking the photographs. I was good at editing the photographs and I was good at presenting the photographs. But the business side of it was a whole different thing. How do you gauge your worth? What your time is worth? How do you, do the taxes at the end of the year or throughout the year, actually, not even at the end of the year. So just not understanding more of the business side of it was a greater hindrance than even doing that wedding by myself. It's just, anyway, that's just me. So
Yeah.
for you, when doubt shows up internally or from others, like you got someone saying, "Hey, you can't do that, Evan. You can't do that." How do you remind yourself why you started and why did you start? I know you said a business broker came to you, in this instance, right? And that was your bright idea. But how do you remind yourself why you started in those times of doubt?
Yeah, I mean, so the business broker was the light to me that there was something broken in
Mm,
the industry. And so as I started to
mm,
really unpack what was going on in the industry and everything like that, and I started to really see that there was an industry that really didn't favor business owners. It favored more of the broker, the commission. And so the losers were really
Yes.
the buyers and the sellers of businesses. And so for me, it's really about bringing value to the owner, because at the end of the day, there's going to be more business buyers than there are business owners. And so
Mhm.
there's only a finite number of business owners out there. And, the fact that a lot of them work 10, 15, 20 years on this business. And the statistics show that only 20% of businesses that go to market will ever sell.
Mm,
That means 80% of people who try to sell their business will never, ever be able to sell their business. And so, when I learned that statistic, I'm like, well, there's something broken in this industry. It's obviously not working. And so that's
mhm.
kind of been my driving factor. And part of me, I at first started blaming business brokers, and to be fair, I believe they're a part of the equation, the failure of the industry, but it's not all on the brokers. A lot of it is on the owners. To your point earlier, a lot of times people are good at the thing that they're good at, and then when it comes to some of the business stuff, it's not their forte, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've even struggled with some of the business stuff even, and so how do I get an audience, educate an audience, help them to understand business, exit strategy, and help them get their business prepared. And then BizRetire is an online marketplace where I connect owners to buyers. And how do I have good buyers that are connected to the owners? And then how do I get advisors connected in there? How do I have people advise the buyers and advise the sellers at the same time? And so most businesses, you have one customer. You have one
Hmm.
customer. So I'm building a product, I'm selling it to a customer. I've got multiple customers. How do I get them all to interact? And some customers require other customers. And so, um, to your point, what really drives me is I realize that the industry's broken. There's a lot of business owners that uh, will leave their wives behind with nothing. I've talked to a wife who literally had to sell her house because her husband passed away. There was no preparation planning.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see all kinds of, I hear about and see all kinds of things that happen where people are really left destitute, and after spending 30, 40 years serving their community, and so you look at like the HVAC guy, the local HVAC guy, you know,
Yeah.
during hard times, he's going out there and fixing, single mothers' AC units and not charging them. No, they're paying, employee payroll when they can barely pay themselves. Like these type of business owners
Yeah.
are the ones that keep the community running and going. And so, what I try to tell myself is like my goal and mission is to be the champion for these people, help provide them a way of having life after retirement. There's a lot of times what
Right.
happens is because they have no exit plan, they have to keep working in the business. Like for example, I got a guy on my platform who's 85 years old. He's still working in his
Wow.
business.
Yeah.
He's literally a
Yeah.
slave to his business because he can't escape it. Because if he
Yeah.
stopped working, he can't pay his bills. And so it's just like people like that. It's just like my heart breaks for people that are in that position. You know what I mean? And so that's what really gets me going, keeps me going. Because otherwise, what else is there?
Yeah. 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 I like that. Hey, so I really want to hone in on the mindset and the mentality that you have to weather the failures.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? A lot of entrepreneurs, they are sharing now because obviously you see the big wins and hey, I made it finally, right? And I believe, I've seen a lot that share like it's not all wins. There's a
Right.
lot of long days and long nights and crying and upset and how am I going to pay? How am I not necessarily how I'm going to eat, but sometimes that is that too, right? When progress feels invisible, like you're just marching in place, how do you still do your best and more importantly for the mental, measure those small wins?
Mm. Yeah, that's a good question. So, for me, it has been failure because I haven't known what I'm doing, and but what I'm seeing progress is I'm seeing how I'm starting to understand things quicker. I'm
Hmm.
I'm seeing progress in the things that I am doing. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Not when I first started, but shortly after, I started doing cold email campaigns. And I've got an accounting degree. I've done financial crimes investigations, so I'm a very logic brain person. And so, like marketing and messaging is not really my forte per se, or at least it
Yeah.
wasn't. And so, I'm doing these cold email campaigns, and I'm not getting any replies, and then they're like killing my email deliverability. I'm really just struggling,
Hmm.
and so I'm like, well, this cold email sucks. It doesn't work, right? And so, um,
Yeah.
which is not true, but in my mind, it was true
Of
because
course.
it wasn't working. It wasn't working for me, right? So it's like, okay, this
Yeah.
obviously doesn't work. But what I realized is there's people that literally spend, 80-hour weeks for the last 10 years doing cold email. And there's me who
Mhm.
just like went into some app or program and kind of played around with it and started sending emails, right? And so of course it didn't work for me. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. And so
Yeah.
my great uncle actually said something to me that really stuck out to me once. He said, "You can't have success without first having suck." And so, SUC, suck. You got to have suck first. And so you have to be willing to suck at something in order to have success. And so, I was talking to like a business coach guy. He gave me like a free consultation. He's like, "Well, it sounds like you did the right median, right? You needed to reach business owners through email because they're busy. They need to be able to like read the email whenever it's best for them, right? You can't just call them randomly. There's a
Right.
lot of, he's like, you just didn't know how to do it. Try it again." And so tried it again, learned a little bit more. I'm doing it again. And, the first couple of days I got someone said, "Hey, I'm interested." And so it's like, okay, this is already infinitely better than the months I spent before. And now I've only spent, a couple of days doing it. And so the mindset shift is that I'm going to be bad at things that I've never done before, or I'm going to be bad at things that I've done only a few times. Right. And so I have to be willing to continue to be bad at things. Failure is the cost to have success, and if I'm not willing to pay the cost, then I don't deserve the payment, right? And so that kind of helps motivate me that failure is actually progress, and it's kind of hard to think of it that way, but when you reframe your mind, I think it definitely helps push you forward.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree. You gotta shift your mindset. Because if you think that you're going to win and be successful and be, because you come up as a kid, depending on your environment, parents, your school, you may be great at school, this and that, and your parents are super high on you. And then you get out into, adulthood or adulting, and you start trying things, right? You could take that simple path or whatever. I don't know what it looks like, right? So I'm just throwing words out there, but a lot of times you take challenges or you do things that you've never done before. You should, right? Most people, because you're getting older, so there's different things that you're being exposed to. And some of the times you're not going to ace the test. You're not going to get an A on all of those tests. You're going to fail a lot of them. And being able to mentally prepare yourself to come back from that failure and take that test again, you're like, oh, I got to see this time. I'm getting better. Instead of, oh my God, I didn't get an A.
Yeah.
It's that type of mental shift, simplifying it, obviously, that you need to have because you
Yeah.
have made a small step. You've made progress. And eventually that progress builds on progress, builds on progress, and then maybe you'll become a subject matter expert or a lot better at things. So I definitely agree with you there. Definitely.
Yeah. And in school
Okay.
conditions, I love the test analogy. Sorry to jump in. It's just because like you take a test
No.
and you either get it right or wrong. And life is not like that. There are a million answers. Some answers are better than others and will get you further than others, but there I mean there are some wrong answers in life too. But I think it's not as black and white as, just you choose B and that's either right or wrong. And so yeah, I think it is a mindset shift because we think that way because we're trained that way as kids, and I don't life's not really like
Yeah.
that.
And you just sparked something in me. Like there are a lot of gray areas in
Uh-huh.
life. There's usually not a black and white response to thing because you got to add perspective. You got to add, what is it called? Socialization. All the things that you've experienced in life versus the things that I've experienced in life. So we're going to come at the same thing a little bit differently, right? And both of us can be absolutely right in the way we approach it, but I'll think you're wrong and you may think I'm wrong, right? So it's an interesting gray area that we navigate in business and life and relationships, and just be willing to understand. Okay, now I'm involved in Evan, so I can't just go off of my perspective and expectations. I gotta kind of enter into his world and then we can reevaluate and clarify that grade just a little bit, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah, it
I
does.
took that analogy way too far, maybe.
No, that's good.
Alright. Hey, but coming from the military into business ownership, like what parallels do you see between the discipline of the what were you in? The Army, Navy, Air Force,
I was
Marines,
Army,
Space
Army,
Force? What
Army
were you?
Guard. I was a combat medic.
Okay, so between the disciplines of the Army and the uncertainty of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities, there's a lot of differences. The Army, you're told where to be, what to do, how to do it, and entrepreneurship is not like that at all. There are no written out procedures or steps you need to follow, right? And so the Army does instill in you time management, though. You got to be there early, you got to show up, you got to be ready to work hard. And so that's a similar concept you need to carry over into entrepreneurship. And so, you know, as a business owner, there are days that I would love to schedule out my days, and I do, but I have to ask, like, what is the most there's a difference between urgent and important. And I gotta say, okay, what's
Mhm.
important, what's urgent and important, and how do I make
Yeah.
this list and tackle these tasks one by one, and eliminate these tasks and get those tasks done. And so um you know I'm a millennial, I'm very tech based, and so one of the things that I've really struggled with is distraction. I've got I've had like games that I've been distracted with, because I'm kind of got some free time. And so like part of my discipline is like, okay, I need to start deleting apps. I need to start, and so you know, time management can look like a lot of different things for different people. And for me, because I've always kind of had these distractions around, I've had to learn how to eliminate the distraction and get into the work of things. And so that has been a struggle that I've been struggling with. And so like that's
Mhm.
urgent. That's an urgent and an important thing, because if I don't eliminate the distractions, I don't get any work done, and then that literally kills everything. And so that for me, that is a priority. Like if I notice that I'm doom, like I got to use social media to advance my business, but if I realize that I'm doom scrolling, I got to be like, whoa, wait, what am I doing? And I need to close out of that and get back to my task. And so it can be an actual business task. It can also be, how do I manage myself, discipline myself, which the military is very good at helping you with that. And I think, and so realizing, hey,
Yeah.
you're behaving in a certain conduct. This is not the conduct that is befitting of a business owner in accomplishing the goals and tasks that are assigned to me. And how do I eliminate it and execute on what I need to do?
Hmm. So, what advice would you give to a fellow veteran stepping into civilian or entrepreneurial life?
Wow, that's tough. The transition's always tough, right? I think, yeah. What is a good advice? So I was in the Army National Guard. I had a bunch of mini
Uh,
transitions. So I would have to go from being civilian to military man and then flip back into civilian mode. And I had a real
mhm.
noticeable change in my posture and how I talk to people, like the week leading up to drill week. And then I kind of felt like there was like a down, kind of coming off the ramp as far as coming back into civilian life. Um, I think you have to realize that everyone's an individual, everyone's different. And to apply the same type of mentality that you have with the military, or expect everyone else to think and behave in a certain decorum or manner that is befitting of a soldier, or the disciplines of a soldier, is actually going to leave you for failure and disappointment. And so, knowing that they don't have the same training, the same, like you were saying, perspectives. You and I have different perspectives. I have, we all have different perspectives from everyone, and meeting people where they're at, seeking to understand them, their points of view, their motivation, what's driving them. And if you can meet them where they're at, you're going to have success in any field that you're in, whether it's business, whether it's getting a job, whether it's family, um, and if you had a traumatic experience that, just like you need a band of brothers to go to war, you need a band of brothers to do life with, to heal from those experiences, whether that's a community at church, whether that's counseling group, whether that's, going in the gym and getting, or doing martial arts, doing some kind of outlet. You got to take care of yourself first as well. So that's what I would say to transitioning vets. Like that, those things are really important.
Yeah, I like those. I had a good on this one. I did my first 10 years. I think they were all active, but they were active, so active regular army. And then I went to school and I learned that there was a thing called AGR, which is active guard reserve, which means I can still be active, but I can work with guard and I can work with the reserves. And so I did that. And the mentality, you kind of talk about the shifts, right? I used to love seeing the soldiers come in on drill weekends or on annual training. And at first, I was super critical, I guess, coming from active army because it's super strict. There's levels to it, you know, there's different levels because active army, you're immersed in it all the time, all the time. But when I went to AGR, then there's a different mentality. There's individuals who have regular jobs doing all kind of amazing things. And then they come in and they, you know, do their what do you I don't know if it's called their time or they what do you call it? They serve the
Drill
country,
weekend.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, drill weekend. So you come in and you serve your country for whatever that motivation is. And I say all of these things because I never thought about those type of mini transitions that you were talking about. Transitioning from civilian to military for 2 days and then back to civilian. Even though I could see it,
Uh-huh.
I could see it in a from my perspective. I couldn't really see it from your perspective because I'm like, we're colonel, major, like I'm starting first class, but I'm telling majors what to do. And I'm like, why the hell am I telling an officer what to do? I don't understand. And then you
Mhm.
start to get it, right? So my
Yeah.
whole point is with this long dissertation is that we have different perspectives we learn. And from that, I learn, okay, they're coming from something else. I have to get them to a point because if we get called up, which we did, we had to go to Iraq with these people. These are the people that you're going to serve with, and they're going to need to take care of you. That was long. I think I'm gonna edit some of that out, but
No, it's good. No,
but
it's
my
good. And
point is, yeah,
I think if vets
go
hear that,
ahead.
I think it's good to hear that because,
Yeah.
um, to be frank, I think some veterans have a superiority complex. Like,
Mhm.
I'm an elite fighting machine. I'm better than civilians, and to a certain point, that's
Mhm.
true when it comes to warfare. But there are other attributes than just how well can you fight, how well can you train. And those are important aspects, right? But and so I think if there's a veteran
Yeah.
listening to this, it's like, how do you find, like, where are you finding value? Because the thing is like if you're looking at others with that value, like you're a civilian, you don't train like me, you don't do this, then you're gonna look at yourself the same way. And then when you're not when you're out of the military, you're gonna have a sense of like I'm trash because I'm not an elite fighting force machine anymore. I'm excuse
Mm.
me, I'm not defined the same way. And so you're gonna start looking at yourself and that is just as destructive, right? And so the viewpoint in which
Yeah.
we look at the
Yeah.
world is very important. It not only affects how we treat others, it's how we affects how we treat ourselves. And so if you're a business owner, you're looking to create a business owner, you're a vet, and you look at the world a certain way and you can't let go of certain things, then it can be a hindrance. I mean, it can be an asset too, depending on. I mean, if you're catering to just vets, then maybe it's a great thing. If you're dealing with civilians all day, it could be a detriment. So it just depends, right? It's a
Yeah,
gray area.
yeah, yeah. And to piggyback off of that, perspectives, growth, small steps. You talked about those micro steps, right? Part of those steps is clarity. Part of that is just experiences and understanding and incorporating those things and not staying stagnant. I was listening to an audiobook, can't remember the name of the audiobook, and they were talking about mistakes and then, or changing your mind. Right. So I know back in the day, I don't know, flip flopping. I don't know if you remember that term, but it was a popular term in politics. You're a flip-flopper, right?
Right.
What they said in the book was you're not failing, you're not changing your mind, you're adjusting with the new data that you're receiving.
Yeah.
So you're always, they coined it, you're updating. You're updating. So take these experiences, take these chance interactions like me and you talking right now, and your mind's gonna automatically do it anyway. It's gonna incorporate it into your life, into your database of knowledge. But some people, you're more comfortable with what you are sure of, what you know, what you've grown up with, and you dismiss this new information and you stay stagnant.
Yeah.
Whether it be in your perspective, whether it be you're holding your own growth back, whatever it is, just try to take every opportunity to incorporate new experiences into your overall growth as a person. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's my what is it? PSA? Public service
Yeah. There
announcement?
you
Yeah,
go.
PSA
Well,
for the day.
a beautiful
Hey,
message.
yeah.
It's a beautiful message. Because, I mean, soldiers are so resolute. Like, we do this thing, we do it this way,
Mhm.
and then they view that shift as like weakness, right? But to your point, you're
Mhm.
taking in information, you're learning, you're growing, and that's. I mean, a lot of soldiers need to hear that, and so I think it's good.
Cool, cool. All right, now let's get back to entrepreneurs.
Sure.
What's one practical step that a struggling entrepreneur can take today to regain clarity?
Regain clarity. I learned in college about a vision and mission statement. And as I was building my business, I thought it was the dumbest thing. I'm like, okay, well, and the reason I thought it was dumb is my business kept changing. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to have a clear vision and mission until I figure out what my business is. But it's kind of oxymoronic because I got to figure out what my business is before I figure out what I'm doing with my business. And so,
Mhm.
there is a lot of people on the internet will talk about clarity in action. You just do the thing and you'll figure it out. And I believe that because a lot of people are not doers. They say they're going to do, they have a business idea, and there's only like maybe 5 or 10% that actually execute on those ideas. But also with action, you have to have clarity. The analogy I like to give is if I've got a scope on a rifle and I've got a target 500 meters away, if I'm off like a fraction of an inch on my scope, by the end goal, my target, I'm going to be 3, 4, 5 feet, maybe even further away from my target. And so I can do and I can get momentum in a direction, and that's fine. But I also have to have clarity on what I'm doing. And so I would say, do have a bias or action as an entrepreneur. Do more stuff. Like I said, I didn't do enough cold email, and I gave up. I didn't do enough, research. So you have to do, but you also have to do with clarity. And I would say, have a mission, a vision statement. Figure out what is it that you're living for. Because if you're living for profit and money, that is a very hard goal to continue to strive for. Because the problem is that there are a million ways to make money. And so the next time a shiny thing comes along that makes more money, you're going to like, well, should I just go invest in crypto? Should I just go do drop shipping? Should I just do, should I do stock trading? Like, you're not going to have any resolute action, right? And so you need a vision and mission that is bigger than yourself, that's going to propel you to get out of bed every day and work hard. You need something that impacts people positively, because at the end of the day, dollars are certificates of service that you provided to society, and they vote with you. And the more value you give society, the more they vote for you with their dollars. And so if you have a vision that helps people, money will come, but make it people centric first. And so the vision, mission, I would say, do it. I think that helps bring clarity.
Hey, is there something that we didn't cover today that you like to share? I ask questions because I'm curious about what I'm curious about. But what is something that you'd like to share today?
Oh, that's a great question. Wow.
I could talk a lot, as you can tell. There's a lot of things I would love to share, but I
Uh-huh.
think, I think what really drives me is my faith, right? And I'm a big evangelist for my faith. I know in a world today where Christianity's gotten a bad rep, churches have hurt people. There have been wars that have happened,
Yeah.
of religion. There's been, all kinds of stuff, and if someone's out there listening to this and they're like, I hate Christians or I hate religion, it's like, yeah, I would too, because people suck. But God is good, and I think God loves everyone. And so I think if you have a purpose, you know that you belong to a divine creator that loves you more than life itself. Um, that allows you to overcome any adversity. It gives you meaning and purpose in your life. And so I think,
Mm.
um, I've studied religion, Islam, I've studied all these other ones, and everything points back to Jesus, man. Historicity
Yeah.
points to Jesus. Islam talks about the divinity of Jesus. So
Yeah.
everything in the world points back to Jesus. And so I would just say the biggest question to answer is, who is Jesus to you? Is he a liar?
Mm.
Is he a lunatic, or is he your Lord?
Mm. Wow. That is impactful. I appreciate that though. Because when you sit and really think about it, religion does get a bad rep.
Yeah.
But then you also clarified it. It's because people run the religions, right? Or manage it, or whatever words you want to use for it. So if you get some good people who really are invested in helping people to be better, to build their relationship with Jesus and things like that, then you're going to have a great experience. But if you
Yeah.
get people who have other ulterior motives, right, then you're going to get that negative experience, that negative insight, or that negative perspective on what religion is. Because everybody ain't about Jesus. Some people are about making that buck. We talked about that earlier, right? Those profits, and it's a lot of money in religion, right? If you do it right. So, um, great, great, great lesson, great takeaway, great. Thank you for bringing that up. And what I encourage everyone who's listening, just to piggyback off of that, is you need to find your own personal relationship, right? If you don't want to, it's on you, right? But if you do, you need to find your own personal relationship. Don't depend on someone to tell you what your relationship is with Jesus, right? You can help them, they can help you, learn scriptures and things like that. But you need to find your own personal relationship, because you're going to find it's 100% you're going to run into people who aren't followers of Jesus who claim to be. It just
Yeah.
is going to happen, right? So you need to be strong and resolute in your own relationship. Now, we took that way off of entrepreneurship, but that was a very important message. I believe. So I just wanted to jump on board and let you know, yeah, I definitely believe in Jesus. And do I follow him every day perfectly? Absolutely not. No one does, right? But I have to find my own personal relationship and find ways to get those micro steps. We talked about that earlier, so that I
Yeah.
get better at that as well. See how these things, they kind of tie into a lot of things in life, right? It's all about the mindset and getting yourself straight. I like that.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Hey, so where can the listeners go to learn more about you or connect with your work?
Yeah, I'm on a lot of the platforms. So I'm most active on LinkedIn. You'll find me on Facebook, but I'm almost on X and Instagram and all these other places. So you can find me there. You can go to the website, bizretire.com. You can put in a contact form, and then I can send you a contact message, and we can connect from there as well.
All right, really quick. I know I'm telling this is the end, but I went on what is it called?
Biz Retire.
What's the name of it again? Biz Retire.
BizRetire.com.
Reason why I stopped, because when I said biz, the first thing kind of my mind was rate. So bizretire.com, and I saw like they had a listing for a business, but I only saw the one. So what can people expect when they go on that website? Like, what should they expect? How do they navigate it? Is there a easy button there that says, "Hey, just hit this button and Evan will call you back and give you some," what should they expect on your site?
Yeah, It's one of those things that I'm also sucking at is is web development. So I'm working on making the website a little bit more user friendly and easier to navigate. But
Okay.
you can sign up for a business buyer account if you want to see our listings. You can see those listings for free. There should be a sign up
There you
button, and that'll take you there. Or if you scroll down at the bottom of the page or the home page, I believe there's a contact form you can just fill out and send it.
There you go. All right. So get you a business account and definitely sign up for the newsletter, or is it a newsletter?
No,
Do you
it's
have a newsletter?
it's an
It's
account.
more, it's more to connect with you. More to connect
Right,
with you. Okay.
right.
Got it. All right. Hey, so I'm going to go on there and I'm going to check it out because I'm interested in that. Like, I don't think me realistically at this point that I'm looking to buy a business, but I'm always looking to learn. Right. And I believe like that was interesting to me to see that on there because I hear about people buying businesses. You know, you hear the big Apple bought something, right? Big time.
Uh-huh.
But I also hear about someone who started a business, scaled it up, and then they sold it,
Yeah,
later on, all these different things. And I don't understand how that all works. Like, who wants to buy your business? And that's just me being naive and not knowledgeable in that field. And so I saw your website and I was like, huh, maybe I can get some insight. I'm really looking forward to talking to Evan and see if he can give me some insight. We focus on entrepreneurship, not the business part that much. But I am interested. So if you see my name pop up there, see if you can get you to respond and not your other people that work there.
sure.
Because
Yeah,
I want
absolutely,
to hear
man.
from the horse's mouth. All right.
Yeah, we can
I
definitely
appreciate
do
you.
do a little crash course or maybe another episode. Who knows?
Oh, I like that. I like that. And we'll focus specifically on that because I know there are people out there who want to buy a business. They're prepped. And then there are also people, you talked about the exit strategies, right? People who want to
Mm.
level up, get it to a certain point so they can sell it because that's just a step to a bigger goal that they have in mind. So all of these things, yeah, let's try to make that happen.
Excellent.
But on today's on today's conversation with Evan, reminded me that entrepreneurship isn't only about celebrating success; it's also about facing uncertainty, setbacks, and the courage to keep going. Evan showed me that clarity comes not just from achievement, but from learning to stay aligned with your values, even when the outcome is unclear. And Evan, I just want to thank you for your honesty, your openness. It's a reminder that resilience isn't polished, it's lived.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And to the listeners, take Evan's story as encouragement to keep showing up. Even when the results aren't immediate, remember your struggles don't define you, they refine you. And be sure to subscribe to Hindsight, the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and keep tuning in for more conversations that help you learn from yesterday, act today, and shape your tomorrow. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight, the podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button. No, not right there. Over to the right. No, down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight, the podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.